It's nice out today. Can't spend too long here though. Gotta get back to one ticking. I can sit here for approximately 45 seconds, and even that's an XP waste. Who the hell are you, man?
I don't know, man. 1 minute I was in Falador, construction just came out, and some maniac started attacking everyone and killing everyone. Hey, you want to play a few rounds of Castle Wars? Maybe some Trouble Brewing? Hang out?
Oh sweet, did they add a new best in slot or make it to where you get the best XP in the game there now?
What? No, you can get that sick-ass golden Castle Wars armor. That's what everyone goes for. What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? You're telling me you just go for fun? That's super lame, man. I'm out of here. See ya.
Damn, man, what the hell's up with that guy?
Hey guys, Runescape Historian here. In this video, I hope to briefly explain and hopefully give you a few answers from my point of view with my opinions as to why the community has changed from RuneScape's golden days up to now in old school RuneScape. First things first, if you enjoy these types of videos, like historic videos and looking back at the past, as well as old school RuneScape progress videos occasionally, you know what to do the typical YouTube stuff that helps me out, and thanks for the support so far. So without further ado, let's hop in. So to begin, I would like to start off with the time period when RuneScape launched. When RuneScape first launched, it was 2001 and the internet was just taking off basically. The amount of multiplayer games that were around were few and far between. The games that were around were either for consoles or were just linear paths with no exploration, no free will. At the time, there were very few games like RuneScape, especially ones that had the depth and progression factor of RuneScape. This in turn led to RuneScape's community going from a tight-knit community of a few thousand players up to a community of 10,000 players and more quite quickly. However, even though they grew as a community at first, the sense of community stayed intact for the most part. To kind of build off of this point, in 01 to 02, there weren't very many ways to communicate or chat online. There was MSN, that came out in 99, AOL Instant Messenger, also known as AIM, was also around. Other than these two very popular services at the time, there weren't a whole lot of options to chat with your friends online. No Facebook, no stupid TikTok, no Snapchat. There wasn't even MySpace. MySpace was invented in 03, and it didn't become popular till even after that. Point is, players actually wanted to communicate with each other online because it was fresh and new, and there were limited options to do so. This led to having a good portion of the community socialize and talk. This made areas such as the Sears Village trees, Catherby, the Fishing Guild, and many more skilling areas, among other minigame areas, become social beacons for people to flock to. Even those that were less social liked to be around and enjoy other people talking. The next point I'd like to briefly make is cell phones. Cell phones also couldn't text as fast as they can now. In 01 to 02, you had like Nokia track phones, but if you guys remember, you had to hit the same damn button to get to the actual letter you wanted to send, let alone a whole sentence or paragraph text message. This made it very unpopular. My point is, nowadays people have their phone within reach, even if they're playing on a desktop or laptop. The thing goes off, it distracts them, someone might send them a message on RuneScape, they might not see it. And in turn, it can make the community seem less social because of factors like this. They're constantly busy because of that phone going off, other people can reach them easier, and overall people are just busy. Most of this coming from the cell phone. Cell phones are irritating, man. They just constantly make noise and distract. I hope that makes sense to you guys. It kind of made sense to me when I was thinking of points to make. Another good point is dual monitors. So the ability to play with dual monitors came out actually with Windows 98. It's just a lot of people hadn't caught up to the technology and maybe didn't have the money. I remember many people's, like all my friends at the time that played RuneScape, they used the family computer that had one monitor. So why does this matter? Well, having one monitor playing RuneScape means you're not on YouTube. I mean, you might minimize and play music in the background, but you're not actively watching YouTube like people do nowadays with dual monitors and such. They put their sole focus on the monitor that had RuneScape on it, which means they saw people talking and then they wanted to keep themselves entertained because that was their only source of entertainment with their single monitor, and they talked and interacted more, which overall made the community seem more lively and talkative. Compare that to now, you have people streaming or having a second monitor, watching streams, watching YouTube. Half the time they're AFKing on RS Mobile, and they're really not paying attention. It's almost just like having thousands of players scattered around with hardly any of them paying attention or talking. Now that we've kind of gone through the time period a little bit and maybe some of the technological advancements, I would like to talk about the player base. So the player base when RuneScape first launched in 01 all the way to 2007 and maybe a little bit after, some of us were in our 20s and above, but we loved the game, everyone was social, and because of the technology points I made earlier, they still talked. For a lot of us though, we were young, annoying kids. During summer break, we could play for 12 hours straight every day and nobody would bat an eye, except our parents bitching at us to clean our room. I'm sure many of you can relate at the time. That didn't stop us though, we would keep playing well into the night. Well, now the player base overall has grown up and they have some form of responsibility for the most part. There are errands that need to be ran, bills need to be paid, family events to go to, and much more. Every one of these factors diminish our time to play the game. Well, what's the point? What does this lead into? Well, it leads into the dreaded efficiency mindset. Let's say you only have 2 hours to play per day. That's pretty reasonable for a very casual player. Some people get less than that. And because RuneScape is a game all about seeing your character progress, that's kind of the main point you play. The socializing kind of fell on the back burner. Well, with your 2 hours, you can either fish lobsters like the good old days and make like 60k GP and maybe get 40k fishing XP, or you could go one tick and get 200k fishing XP. Maybe you don't make money, but you get a ton more XP, like 4 or 5 times as much in some cases. It's easy to see which option you would choose if your goal is to progress. And again guys, with the efficiency thing, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I totally get it. There's nothing wrong with being inefficient as long as those two groups don't bother everybody. For example, I've seen efficient players bother just casual players about how, they're getting slow XP rates and everything else. And then I've seen the opposite side where the other side calls them sweaty and all this other stuff. There are some sweaty people that can play 10 plus hours a day and still choose to one tick and all that. I get all points of view and there's nothing wrong with really any of it. People just need to leave other people alone and let them play the way they want to. So a really tiny change that's kind of stupid but also makes the community different than it was back in the golden days is simply the way we speak. When is the last time you heard someone use the words tube, rube, use leet speak, which is basically where they put numbers like where letters should be when they're talking, woot, or like WTF barbecue, all that obnoxious stuff. When was the last time you heard someone say that? It's probably been a few years. I'm not saying this impacts anything, but it definitely makes the community different than it used to be, which is the whole point of this video. So player-to-player trading on RuneScape is pretty much dead. The only people who still do it for the most part are bone runners, essence runners, they trade the bones, trade the essence, or scammers. Scammers use it too. There might be a few other groups, but my point being, you really don't see player-to-player trading as actively as you used to. Remember the RuneScape forums? I mean, they're still around on old school, but they're only used for like merchanters, among other things. They're not really used the way they used to be because that used to be the only option. So how does this impact the community? Well, I specifically remember many people, as well as myself, you'd fish your raw shark, you'd go to the RuneScape official forums back in the day, you would talk to people, you would sell them their stuff, you would build up a bond or a friendship with these people, and you'd actually become good friends over time with some of the people you traded with and talked to from the forums. With the Grand Exchange out, again, quality of life update, nothing wrong with it, but I'm just saying, it impacted this and it ruined it. We had the chance to kind of right this wrong when Old School was launched, but again, because of the quality of life Grand Exchange offers and it makes it so much easier to sell small quantities of stuff and junk you gathered, we chose and opted for the Grand Exchange, so that killed the Varrock West and East banks and other banks where people would sell stuff on Old School. So what's another reason the game will never be how it was or the community has changed? Well, this one's gonna be sad, so buckle in. Your real life friends / online friends don't play anymore. You can admit it, I'll admit it, my friends list is pretty much red. I have friends on there that I don't want to delete from 2006, 2007, and maybe even before that. Every day you'd get home from school or maybe even work back then and you had this amazing list of friends that would welcome you into the game. You actually looked forward to logging in because of this. You used to do dumb crap together, play mini games. It wasn't all about efficiency. This can give you guys the perception that the community has soured and, kind of make you sad when you look at that friends list. But it's not all bad. My advice to these people would be searching on the forums or looking for a clan. You might have to hop around to a few clans and find the one that fits you best, and find a group of people that, you know, play actively that you can talk to. That makes it a whole lot better. One of my last points to make of why the community is a little bit different than it was back in the golden days is skilling for GP is dead. So how does this play a part into what I'm talking about? So back in the day when people were actively playing on the computer, the best GP methods back then were to fish for the elusive sharks, get 76 fishing, which was seen as a high level back then, to make money because they were worth 1k each. Other than that, you had things such as the KBD, but eventually the D-Med that it dropped around 0506 dropped to 500-600k, and that was the best drop that that monster had. Later on, KQ would exist, but that was one of those bosses where if you don't get the drop, you go broke, because the common drops just were abysmal. They sucked. They aren't how they are now on old school with the buff drop table. The point is, now when people fish, they go to barbarian fishing areas or equivalent. They want the fastest XP, nothing wrong with that, but there's really no reason to go to the fishing guild even with the invisible boost for sharks or lobsters, and people would do it because it was decent money. And it's not that that has gotten so much worse, like the prices have tanked, it's just everything else has gotten so much better. Like you can PVM now for 5 mil an hour, if not more now. Why the heck would you fish for 40k GP an hour when you could go to Theater of Blood and make 5 mil an hour, or do the Nightmare? There's just not really any reason if your sole goal is for GP, and if your sole goal is for fishing XP, why are you doing lobsters anyway? I'm just telling you the mindset of people nowadays. I'm not bashing either way. But back when everything was brought down, like you maybe had, you know, KQ being 500k an hour, and sharks were maybe 100k or a little bit more than that per hour. That wasn't that big of a gap, and when they did sharks, it was more relaxing and they could talk with friends. And there are things like minnows out that are like probably 350, 400k GP an hour, which isn't that bad, but you have to be pretty damn active and can't really talk all that much to your buddies or anything like that. And this can be applied to woodcutting and other skills like that. It's not that the prices have fallen that much for the most part. It's more the fact that all the other money-making methods have gotten so much better. So unless a big update happens or some massive rehaul happens, you're never going to get Fishing Guild with all the community back, Catherby with all the people back. You're never really going to see anything like that again, as depressing as it is. It's just facts. To wrap things up though, the game is still in a very healthy state. There's nothing wrong with it now, and you do see glimpses of the old community with things such as Wintertot, the fairly new Temperos. The community skilling things are really a great idea, and I think it's a step in the right direction. Granted, some people might say, oh, Wintertot is toxic. I agree, but also the community back in the day could be toxic as well with some of the stuff they said. So I think updates like that are a step in the right direction. You can really get glimpses of the old community, even things like Fishing Trawler in the actual world at the right time. You can see a lot of people goofing around with each other, and it's just overall a good time. So there's still glimpses of that old community. You just have to give people a reason to appear and show up and want to participate, such as Temperos, Fishing Trawler for the angler outfit, and Wintertot for some of the best fire-making XP in the game. There's nothing wrong with the new direction that old school has taken, and the community has taken. Nothing wrong with it at all. This video was to simply point out differences and reasons that it probably won't go back to the way it was ever. So guys, I hope you enjoyed. I'm sure there are more reasons than the ones I gave. This isn't a be-all end-all list, it's just my opinion and some of my reasons for feeling the way I do and thinking the way I do. So I hope you enjoyed it regardless, guys, and thank you for all the support, and I will see you in the next one. This is RuneScape Historian, checking out.